Now, President Bola Tinubu is considering a temporary subsidy on petrol as crude oil prices and foreign exchange rates continues to soar. There is yet no final decision. A presidency source disclosed that the proposal is firmly on the table. He further stated that the realistic amount of petrol consumed in the country is now known following the removal of subsidy on Tinubu's inauguration. Hence, the amount spent on subsidy can now be controlled. Already, labor unions have threatened to embark on an indefinite strike if the petrol price further surges. Now, joining us virtually to discuss this, in the studio is John Akerile, who is a public affairs analyst, and also Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst. But however, we're starting off with John Akerile. John, good morning and welcome to be with this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for
Hello,
having
John,
me.
are you
Good
with
morning
us?
to the viewers all over the world.
Hello, John, good morning.
Well, we
Good
understand
morning.
that
Thank you
John
for
had to
having me.
wait a little while because
Okay.
he came on before we finished the newspaper review. Well, I hope I hope John did not go offline. Well, John, if you can
Can
hear
you
us,
hear
we would like
me?
for you to
I
come
can hear
back.
you clearly.
All right,
Can you
as we're
hear
ready
me?
to have this conversation with you and get your views
All right.
as well. Good morning once again, John.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
All right, we'll take a little breather now as we try to rectify and establish contact with our guests on the show. We did say that we're expecting John and Nick
Nick
Agule,
Agule.
both public affairs commentators. So we'll take a breather. We'll be back in a short while.
I can hear them. I don't know why they can't hear me.
All right, John. Well, we have been able to reestablish contact with you, and we understand that you could hear us then. Good morning, John Akerele.
Good morning, my brother. Thank you for having me, and good morning to all of our viewers all over the world.
All right, then. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. John,
Thank you for having me.
it was quite ironical when yesterday we heard that the Kenyan president has applied partial subsidy. And then we also heard that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also applied partial subsidy on petrol. What does that actually mean?
Well, for me, it's shocking that we tend to emulate other African countries when they do things feel is right. But if you look at the humongous amount of money our legislatures earn, I don't think that of Nigeria and Kenya earn the same thing. But in terms of looking at it, going back to bring up subsidy will just be a laughing stock. And opposition will be like, we told you that this government they do not have a blueprint of what they want to do as far as the economy is concerned. And if you are going back to subsidy, that validate that point that indeed situation came in handicapped do as far as subsidy and economy is concerned, and it's evident. It's evident because they never saw all of these outcomes coming to play, and now it's as if the outcomes are overwhelming, and even the best of the brains of the economists in their team seem to have a solution to what they can do as to salvage the situation now. And so it would be so absurd if this administration is thinking going back to the vomit, subsidy as a vomit. Going back to your vomit now, for me, it's a no-no. I think if you go back to subsidy now, then why have you subjected Nigerians to this rigorous of childbirth pain, as Mr. President alluded to? And if you are going back to subsidy, why did you remove subsidy in the first place? These are many more questions that people will be asking. But rather, I don't think the government should think of going back to subsidy. Rather, look ahead. Look ahead as to the gains that we have recorded from subsidy removal. But also, what they need to now do is to look at the political will of truly serving the people. In this time that we are saying that people should sacrifice and do all of such, we are not seeing our political class doing that, and they should lead by example. I would have that in line of subsidy removal and the effect that it has on the economy and on the livelihood of Nigerians, that our political class, we bring about a slash in their humongous salary and allowances, and all of that. Now, if you look at 8,000 naira that was projected before, just recently you had our senators who are going on recess. They have 2 million naira just for 2 months. And here you have an average Nigerian take 8,000 naira for 2 months. That's 16,000. So look at 16,000 to 2 million in 2 months. Does that match? Does that even match? So that is the reality on ground. So what I think this government is not doing is the seriousness and sincerity of purpose as far as what they need to do in terms of political will is concerned. The government is saying to live in luxury and largesse, while the people live in abject poverty. And the government keep telling the people that people should sacrifice. Now, let me say, if the people have been sacrificing, I think it's high time that our political class will also come down from that high-handedness kind of lifestyle and come down to the people, bring down the cost of governance drastically, and that the people will see that indeed that this system of governance and the system of governance is reduced drastically, and then the people can now say, now we are at par, and then we can move ahead. So going back to giving partial subsidy would have vindicated the addition of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, saying to you that it's never a scam, but you have said it's a scam. Now that you have seen that it's not a scam, but also there's something that we need to check in that area, which this administration is not checking. Who are those we are paying subsidy to? How much is the real cost of petroleum? What is the landing cost? How do they source their effects in terms of payment of their transactions? Now, you're having the issue of modular refinery at the local level. How come that these boys in the creeks can refine crude oil, get diesel, they can get petrol, and they sell to their local people in their local area? Can we also, government, look at the option of adopting modular refineries in a little way and let it be government funded, and so that can even push in the effect of local supply? Are we looking at that as a government? That's on one angle. On the other angle is the issue of our refinery. How come we have a large chunk of refineries that have been redundant over the years, and year in, year out, we keep allocating money in budget for the rehabilitation and servicing of these refineries, and they produce not even a liter of barrel of crude oil. And those are the areas that this government to look into, rather than saying they want to go back to subsidy. They should not go back to that subsidy era, because it will be a case of aiding those that have depreciated the lives of Nigerians to this point where we are now. But what I think they should do is, just like Leo has said, on the first thing they should do now is to increase the minimum wage. Ask me, I will say minimum wage should be at least 100,000 naira. At least 100,000. Mark my words, 100,000. Now, why did I say 100,000? If you look at the chunk of civil servants, what takes away the chunk of money from their salary, about 56%, is food. Okay? The next is transportation. So if these two areas can be worked on by the government, so when you increase their salary from 30,000 naira minimum to 100,000, you have increased by over 200%, which means that over 200% can help them cushion the effect of their transportation costs and their feeding costs, and then they can be stable. Now, if you do that, what that will do for you on the immediate is that it will engineer the economy, and you see that the economy is growing back a little. That's on one angle. On the other angle is to make sure that you fix your refineries, to make sure that they are functional, and that money that have been expended all these years, even from the last 8 years, have not been accounted for in that sector. And so these are the government needs to look at. What is happening in the upstream segment, downstream segment, are things that people do not even understand. And I think this administration should really focus on that, rather than saying you want to go back to subsidy. It means that they are timid and they are not fit for the job.
All right, then. That was quite verbose there. Thank you very much, John. We also do have Nick Agule joining us. Good morning to you, Nick. Well, Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Always a pleasure to have you. Always a pleasure to have you. Now, I'm actually excited because this is your field, so I always, excited. Now, Nick, tell me, can the temporary subsidy, if it is reintroduced, can it address The first of all, what does it really mean? All right, tell us, what does it really mean? Temporary subsidy. Now, if it is now reintroduced, can it address the rising cost of goods and the rising inflation? Right now, we hear that inflation is hitting about 24.08%. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you very much. What I am hearing that is coming from government sources as regards reintroduction of petrol subsidy is what is termed a policy somersault. A policy somersault by the current government. I think President Tinubu needs to have competent people around the table for each major policy decisions that he has been taking. He has been taking because he is coming across with policies that don't seem to be well thought out, don't well articulated, don't seem to be well analyzed. You need to analyze situations and look at the pros and cons, look at the upsides and downsides, look at the risk around that, look at the capabilities and the availability of resources. Everything needs to be put on the table, properly analyzed before you come up with a policy. And so far, policy pronouncements by this current government seem to be knee-jerk, reactive, and without much thought put in through that process. Now, there are two factors that are constituting the increases in petrol prices globally as we have today. The first one is crude oil prices are rising. They have now hit the $80 plus mark. And if crude oil prices are rising, then the products that are refined from crude oil, you expect the refiners to transfer the rising cost of their input into the prices. The second thing is that the foreign exchange is continually getting against the naira. So you are needing more and more naira to get $1. And you need the dollars to go and bring in the product. So this is like a double whammy because both variables are going against us. Now, the only way that the government can force down the prices or stop additional rises in the prices of petroleum products in Nigeria is to start another subsidy regime. Now, for me, this is where I believe that the government is not doing well. The thing is this: number one, the current petrol price of 617 naira. Does the Tinubu government know how it has been arrived at? Is that the true cost of the land products in Nigeria? Because let's not forget, and we'll keep talking about this, the person who is bringing in this product is the NNPC Limited. And the NNPC Limited is one of the most inefficient organizations in Nigeria today as we speak. So this 615, 617, 620 naira price is the NNPC price. But President Tinubu needs to ask himself, is that NNPC price the best price that Nigerians should be buying petrol at? And you know, we keep making this example because if you recall in the days of NITA, the price of a phone offered by was in the hundreds of thousands of naira more than 20 years ago. When the MTNs came in, the price of the phone crashed to today. You can get a SIM card for free. So the NNPC price, is that the best price we should be buying petrol? That's the first question. The second question is that the NNPC that allowed our refineries to rot, which has now taken us into this quagmire of going to buy petroleum products abroad, foreign exchange increases. You see, if we're not going abroad to go and buy our petrol, foreign exchange, even if the naira crashed to 10,000 to $1, it will not worry us because we are actually refining our crude oil locally. We are not looking for dollar to go and buy it abroad. The NNPC that allowed our refineries to rot, leading us into this. Why has President Tinubu allowed the NNPC management to remain in place since he took power in May of 2020 or 2023? Why has he not swept aside that management and brought in fresh blood that will take that organization and really run it as a commercial enterprise? Number two, the refineries, I expected that by now, President Tinubu would have constituted an expert team that would have started work to say which of these refineries are viable and which of them can we even commence production there if we do maintenance activity in the shortest possible time. Number three, how many of the importers, private importers of petroleum products have succeeded in bringing in products? Has President Tinubu thought about asking the Nigerian downstream authority, why are they licensing this thing? Why can't they just the gateway and say, look, if you have the capacity to go and bring petrol into Nigeria, go and bring it. We will test the quality of your petrol. And once the quality of your petrol is fit for consumption, flood the market with this petrol. Why is it that even as we speak today now, the NNPC is still the biggest importer of a product, forcing onto us their own price that is not efficient?
Well,
so these are the questions that you have to deal with fundamentally, because my fear is that if we go back to the subsidy regime, then of course the problems that were there when subsidy was in place will come back.
All right, Nick, to answer that.
So this is my fears.
To answer that, yes, your fears are well known now. To answer that, NNPC, other people licensed to import cannot access the dollar, so they cannot import. The NNPC is basically the only one that has access to the dollar as of now, and that's why they are importing.
All right, Nick, another question I want to ask you. You actually raised.
I don't agree.
You actually raised.
Can I come in there?
Okay,
Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, you can come in. Yes.
Can I step in? Sorry, can I step in there?
Yes, you can. You can.
I don't believe that is the reason. You know why?
Why?
There were the times where the central bank was selling dollars at 400 and something naira, and that dollar was difficult to access. We are now in a floated regime where both the central bank or the IIE window and the parallel market are the same rate. Look, if you pick a phone now and call the malams operating in the parallel market that you need $10 million, they can bring it to you. The dollar is there. I don't think there's any problem again of a dollar since the two markets are now together. So if the people who have been licensed, the excuse that they don't have dollars, that they cannot access dollars, that is not true. Okay. Because where are the dollars that are coming into this country? As we speak today, the diaspora are bringing dollars into this country. Oil companies are bringing dollars in this company. Into the exporters are bringing dollars into this country. International organizations are bringing dollars into this country. There's just no way you will say you cannot access dollar. The dollar is there. Talk about the high cost of the dollar.
All right, Nick. Yeah. So apparently, it's obvious that the high cost of living, which is what Nigerians have been growing about ever since subsidy removal and the intermittent increment of petrol prices, these are one of the reasons why a couple of analysts like you think that the partial subsidy placement would help. But do you think that the 1 trillion naira that was saved about a month ago is basically what is being used for the partial subsidy removal? Because we haven't heard anything yet concerning how that money is being used. We only heard from his live broadcast, when NLC wanted to commence on the strike at the initial time. The president did an emergency live broadcast, and in that broadcast, he stated there are a couple of subsidy measures already in place for agriculture and for transportation, including education. But we haven't seen anything yet. And like you rightly said, he has not constituted an official economic team. So do you think this partial subsidy placement is from the 1 trillion naira that was saved about a month ago? Do you think that's basically what will be used for the subsidy placement?
The government is very short on giving information to Nigerians. You see, let the leaders know, and I hope their handlers are able to come to see what we are saying here, hear about it, and take it to the president.
Okay.
President Tinubu is like a banker, and we are the owners of the money. When you put your money in a bank, the bank must, in a very transparent way, show you your statement of account so that you can see how your money is being dealt with. Nigerians are the owners of this country. President Tinubu and his team, they are our servants. They are public servants. That word servant is there. Let them come clean to us, the own money, with the bank statement. As we speak today, who knows the petrol we are buying at 615, 617, 620? Who knows? Who knows what is added to it? The shipping, where is this crude oil coming from? Is it from Rotterdam? Is it from Singapore? Is it from Houston? How much are we buying there? How much are we adding in terms of shipping, handling, and insurance and everything? Until such data is clearly reviewed to us, we cannot even say that this 617 is the right price that this petrol is being sold by subsidy.
All right.
All right.
If the government is not aware of what is the landing cost, how would they even be talking about subsidy?
All right, John Akerele, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here, Esther.
Do you think that the president is doing what they call trial and error? Okay, we do know, like Adams Oshomole said, that the president inherited a stifled economy from his predecessor, so we understand that. But a couple of economic strategists have said that the president, knowing what was already on ground and running for that particular seat, should already have had plans on how to mitigate these problems when he eventually takes the position as a president. Unfortunately, he came on board, and it seems like he comes up with policies and say, let's try this. So first of all, you say we're completely deregulating the downstream sector, which Nigerians already agreed would happen. But then we're seeing what it entails now, how it's affecting the economy. Then you say, okay, let's float the naira. Possibly once the market is that open, we'll have, the naira no longer go downward, but we can see what is happening. So do we think that what the president is actually doing at the moment is not literally understanding what is happening, but trying to look at ways through which he can navigate around it? Unfortunately, the people are paying for it.
Esther, I think it's sad when an elder statesman like Senator Adams Oshomole comes to the national TV and says something like that. It's very indicting.
Okay.
And don't forget also that this was the same party that was there the last 8 years. So, and they also campaigned that the economy was good. Have you forgotten before the campaign, during the election, that the economy was doing well? So if Adams Oshomole is coming out now to say that they inherited a very bad economy situation in the country, that means that he is also giving the last administration a zero card. And that is a cheap point for the opposition to lash on. But be it as it may, let's leave Adams Oshomole under regard. But I think I should say to you that the president that I know, that I see, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, knows what to do. I think the only thing that is lacking is the political will to portray. Because I won't lie to you, for these things to work, you must step on toes. And it's evident now that if he step on toes, some of these toes, powerful, and they might come against the presidency or come against his government. And that is the bitter truth of the matter. And that's why he's trying to tread with caution, because he has seen that there's more to it than the eye can see. So for me, it's not a trial and error method. We all agree that subsidy must go because there's too many secrecy in terms of subsidy. There's too much secrecy in terms of we don't even know what we consume as a nation. Is that bad? So when you don't know what you consume as a nation, how do you know the amount you pay on subsidy? Right. Let me now also say to you that part of what is happening is the smuggling of our petroleum product across the borders. In Nigeria, we have over 7 states that borders the J, over 7 states. That's the route. We also have our other porous border across the length and breadth of the country, where our crude oil, which is even paid subsidy on, imported in the country, is even being smuggled out of the country to other West African countries. And so these are some of the issues that I think that this administration should stem in the bud. And the political way to say enough is enough. Let me not lie to you. Subsidy removal is going to be harsh on all of us. Yes, I know. But the point is, when we do the right thing and bring up the right institution and put the right thing in place, we will all smile at last for it. Now, we have crude oil here. Have you not imagined yourself that how come a country that is blessed with crude oil, we take the crude oil in barrels, we take it out to refine, and the only thing we bring back is PMS. Then I ask you, what about the other components of that crude oil? Nobody can account for that. Do you also know that if we have a local refinery working and functional, we have other byproducts that comes from the crude oil, apart from petroleum, and that can also help our green revolution and industrialization process. But I think the political will is what is lacking here. Institutional default is also a big problem for us. So for me, it's not more than it's not trial and error. It's that he lacks that political will to step on toes and call. Pastor Tune Bakari, in his last statement, made a statement and said that he should call out those marketers. Who are those marketers? Who are those people you pay trillions of nairas to? Okay, how much of crude oil do they even bring in? Do you even know where the crude oil is coming from? So I think as a serious government, we should know where it's coming from. Which company is supplying Nigeria? What is the quantity they are importing? Let's bring this thing plain. Let's to all of us. If A is bringing in 2 vessels, okay, a vessel contains 2 million liters of PMS. Can we have all of that documented and we all know? It's simple. Don't let they just make this thing look so big and complicated, but it is not. It is not. If they can measure the amount of liters of petrol into your vessel, how come you cannot account for it?
All right,
those
John.
Are sold to you in Singapore can account for it.
All right, John. Thank you very much. Now, I was going to ask you a question, but I'll let me just allow you rest. So let me go to Nick now. Nick. Hello, Nick. Now we've heard government officials. We've heard government officials say Nigerians complain. Nigerians pay the least pump price for fuel in Africa. How true is this statement? And what are the indices with which this is judged?
First and foremost, those that make this one-sided analysis are either being ignorant or mischievous. You don't make this kind of analysis without bringing in income levels on the table. So if you go to the UK, you can take an Uber ride and it can cost you, an Uber ride will probably cost you more than £10, which in Nigerian Naira is 10,000 plus. And if an Uber ride costs you 2,000 or 3,000 Naira in Lagos, that is not a basis for you to now say, oh, Nigerians are paying the lowest Uber price. Because the man who is paying £10, £15 for an Uber ride, how much is that as a percentage of his salary? Then the person who is paying 2,000, 3,000 as Uber price in Lagos, how much is that as a percentage of his salary? For crying out aloud, Nigeria's minimum wage is 30,000 naira, of which many Nigerians are not even earning it. Even governments are not paying it. A 3,000 naira Uber ride on a 30,000 naira minimum wage is 10%. And I can assure you that the 10 Uber ride in the UK on a 1,250 pounds minimum wage is not even 1%. I think it's 0.1% if I get my right. So those who make this kind of analysis, they make it. In fact, I don't know what to describe them. Let me just leave it there for them. Now, the question there is that, as my co-panelist said, a man is a farmer that harvests his yams and pounds the yam into and makes the yam into pounded yam for his family. And a farmer who first sends his yams to Singapore, they do pounded yam in Singapore, and they import that yam from Singapore back to Nigeria. Can we say that farmer that is sending his yam to Singapore and bringing it back, his children are paying the least price for pounded yam? Whatever price that the children are paying, if that pounded being done right there in their home, it will be cheaper. So that is to tell you that the 617 that we are buying now, if that refining happened locally, it will be cheaper because it will eliminate all the logistics costs of transporting crude oil to Singapore, logistic costs of bringing back the products, the insurance, and the high cost of the... Look, I listened to the presidential spokesman talk about the fact that even if we are doing local refining, the price of petrol will not come down. In my entire life, I am 57 years old as I speak to you. I am 57. In March, I will be 58. I have never seen an ignorant statement like what I heard that presidential spokesman say. In my entire life, and in my more than 20 years of working in the oil industry, I have never seen anybody make the most ignorant statement. Because you know why? He said, oh, he identified the issues. So, if we are importing locally, we are going to save the cost of logistics and all of that. But do you know what he said? He said that savings will be in the CBN. They will not be in the pricing. And I said, come on, can this man be real? Is he for real? You understand? The savings will be in the cost of the product. If they don't know, they will be in the cost of the product. It is simple economics. If your cost of input is less, your prices are expected to be less in a truly competitive environment. For me, the fuel price regime in Nigeria is not yet competitive. Let me tell you why. I have a video. I took this video in the UK. Two petrol stations opposite each other. The pump prices were different. I recorded it. Their prices were different. That is true competition. But in Nigeria, once the price is 615, everybody is selling at 615. That can never be competition. That is price fixing. In a truly competitive environment, the sellers will sell at different prices because they could have imported theirs at different costs. They could be more efficient. Maybe some landed in Lagos, some landed in Calabar or Report. All that can affect the pricing, and you will bring pricing across the country. That is to tell us that we are not yet there, and President Tinubu needs to know that.
All right then. All right, so let me ask John my question now. John, Nick just pointed to the question actually. The price fixing, price of petroleum products. When subsidy was removed, we heard that market forces will determine the price. But what we have seen really is the NNPC saying, okay, this is the price. And every other person gets to sell at that price. How is it that the NNPCL is the one determining the pump price of fuel?
Thank you, Moses. That will tell you the insincerity on the part of our public office holders. Mind you, maybe the MD of NNPCL have forgotten that and he said that they will allow the marketing force to determine the price. And all of a sudden, the same management is coming out to say that they will make sure that there's no increment in the price of PMs, which means that they have the tendency to control the price. Now, in this case, they are not mentioning the market forces again. So the market forces is who? Who are the market forces? That's what I'm asking now. Because if we look at the major importer of PMS is NNPC price. Just like Mr. Nick said the other time, it's only in Nigeria where you have, you make a pronouncement today, and the next day, even the next minute after that pronouncement, you see that the petrol filling station, shut down. The next time they open a new price. And I'm asking a question, saying that the price you are changing to now, affected those products in your well that has been there for months, that you have not even discharged. And so that comes to the case of our institutions, and the kind of people the system have made. Not even people now, monsters that the system have created. Because when you have a system that is not working, you produce malfunction people. And it becomes an insane society. That's what Nigeria has become as a whole, if we'll be truthful and frank to ourselves. In this case, I think the NNPC should be plain and truthful to Nigerians, and that they are the market forces behind the station. And I don't think we should have price fixation. Just like Mr. Nick said, I remember the time that when you go to the telecoms, even to have an MTN SIM in a city patch, about 22,000 naira. I remember that time. I was in Triumph phone. You can't even buy the same phone. You can't buy the same. But now MTN is almost free. The reason is because there is good competition. So if NNPC should take their hands off this market, liberalize the market, and let people be able to access crude, they have the capacity to do it. And then the market will be highly competitive. Now in our telecoms, we have different telecommunication service providers, and if you are not satisfied with the first service provider, you can switch to the other, you can port. So the same thing, that's what I think we should have in that market space. So if I feel that your own price is 617 and another is selling for 405, I can 405 and buy and go. Do you understand? So I think that is what we should. Another question we should even ask Moses is this: if you are saying that we have moved from 185 to 500 and 617, and we're even moving higher, maybe to 700 or 715, and you want to introduce partial subsidy, what percentage of the partial subsidy are you talking about? Are you going to take away 200 naira per liter and bring back to 415? Because even if you bring back 415, it's still there. Nigeria is a country where once a price of a commodity goes up, it does not come down, even crude oil inclusive. Have you time in this country since your existence? Let me ask you of you, both Moses and Esther. Since they became back to you have been living in this country, Nigeria, have you ever seen a time where the price of crude oil, petroleum price went up and then it came down in this same country?
Yes, it came down one time. It came down one time. Was it not during COVID? It was during COVID. It came down. Everybody was surprised. And Nigeria needed to clamor for it.
Is that there was the time where we had petrol for 22 naira per liter in this same country, and there were market forces there. So I think at this point in time, the government officials, should know that it's not business as usual. Now everybody are interested in what happens in the sector. The sector is now more open, and I think it should be more open and transparent so that people can ask questions that matters. Because let me not lie to you, if we don't get it right in this subsidy era, we can never get it right as a nation.
All right, Nick. Thank you, John. Nick, I want to ask you this question because we need to move to the second segment. Nick, do you think that the president is doing right by wanting to implement partial subsidy? Let's be objective. Do you think he's doing right by implementing the partial subsidy?
As you can see, NEPA has taken my light, and darkness has loved me. And this is the federal capital territory. This is the federal capital territory of one of the world's largest producers of oil and gas. Very shamefully. The government does not understand that. They just now.
You see? The government
Part of the pressure, on petroleum product consumption is the lack of power supply. Because a lot of the petrol is going into generators. Almost all of the diesel is going into generators. If we had adequate public power supply, all that petrol will not be consumed. All diesel will not be consumed. And that would be the first solution to this. Because once you begin to cut down the demand of a product, the price of that product will fall. So, to answer your question, that if partial subsidy, it will help the problem. The question is that the partial subsidy, by how much? By how much? That's the question. Is it the subsidy going to take us back to 180 naira, where we started from? Or is it taking us back to 537, where we just left to come here? By how much? So even prices that have already escalated in the market automatically coming down because the government has implemented a partial subsidy. We have already been thrown into the deep end of this problem. What I expect the government to be is more fundamental solutions.
All right.
Open the floodgates, let everybody flood in with the product. Deal with the refineries. These are the things that will now make this problem to be resolved. Subsidy, no subsidy. Once subsidy comes, like my co-panelist said, without even us knowing how much you consume per day, how would you now know how much subsidy you are going to pay?
All right, then. Thank you very much, Nick. But we're going to stay with you, gentlemen, for a little bit longer as we go into another topic. It's different, but a related one as well. Now, inflation hits 24.08% as food prices rise. Now, how does an average Nigerian cope with this, and how have they been coping? That's the question on our lips this morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation with John and Nick. So,